so hard.
No. Would you give me 1 minute? Well, I'm gonna have to get something on.
This is Lindy Jones, a 19-year-old from South Carolina who was charged with murder in August 2019. Lindy was responsible for the death of 18-year-old Willie Antoine Fields. After investigations, both Lindy and his younger brother, Jalen Jones, were arrested. In court, Angela Fields, the victim's mother, had a few words for Lindy. "I just want you to know what they took from me. They took my only child, my only child."
I just want to let you know what they took from me. They took away my only child, my only child. It's so hard.
Her husband, Willie Clay Fields, was trying to console her, but the pain became unbearable. "It's been so hard, sir," he said.
It's so hard.
Sir, back off, back off, sir, back off, back off, back off, sir. Back off.
Before officers had to step in to separate him from Lindy. Lindy was eventually sentenced to 35 years in prison, while his brother Jalen received a 6-year sentence in juvenile detention. But this wasn't the only time emotions ran high in court. In another case, Diamond Alvarez's mother was present in court for the trial of 19-year-old Frank Dylan Jr., who had shot her 16-year-old daughter 22 times on January 11, 2023. Diamond was out walking her dog when Frank attacked her. Police investigations revealed that they had been in a relationship and were on the verge of breaking up when the crime occurred. Frank was quickly arrested, but his behavior in court was shocking. As Diamond's mother was giving her statement, expressing her grief, Frank smirked, infuriating her. She moved to confront him, but the situation escalated when Diamond's uncle jumped in to attack Frank. Frank's mother then joined the fray, leading Diamond's aunt to intervene. The police eventually managed to separate the two families. Diamond's mother later expressed regret, saying, "It was wrong of me, wrong of us, because we're not monsters. But there's so much hate, and I want my daughter back. What he did was horrible, and seeing him laugh in my face, it was very wrong. I'm so sorry for that."
It was wrong of me, that was wrong of us, because we're not monsters. But it's so much hate, because I want my daughter back. And what he did it was horrible. Seeing my daughter there and looking at him that he did that and he's laughing in my face. It was very wrong, and I'm so sorry for that.
Frank eventually accepted a plea deal and was sentenced to 45 years in prison, but not before the courtroom nearly descended into chaos. In another case, 25-year-old Tristan Lamro faced charges for first-degree murder in Utah after shooting his 19-year-old wife, Misty Lamro, on August 23, 2009. In court, Misty's brother, Jason Wilson, gave a victim impact statement, glaring at Tristan with pure rage. Tristan's lack of remorse, as he rocked back and forth in his chair, only made things worse. Jason's frustration was palpable, and he wanted to confront Tristan, but deputies intervened before things could escalate. Tristan was ultimately sentenced to 15 years to life in prison. But Jason Wilson wasn't alone in his anger. In another case, serial killer Michael Madison faced multiple charges, including 3 counts of murder in Ohio between 2012 and 2013. Michael was responsible for the deaths of 3 women before he was eventually caught. In court, Van Terry, the father of one of the victims, spoke directly to Michael, saying, "I'm supposed to forgive this clown who took my child?"
Take my child.
But when Michael smirked at him, Van snapped, unleashing chaos in the courtroom. police quickly restored order, and the proceedings continued. The jury recommended the death penalty, and Judge Nancy McDonald delivered the sentence, condemning Michael's inhumanity and the brutality of his crimes.
I am struck by the sheer inhumanity of what one human being can do to not one, but 3 human beings. It is incomprehensible. You cajoled, lured, and deceived Shatisha Shealy, Angela Deskins, and Sherelda Terry to your apartment for your depraved purposes. You went on to abuse the corpses of these 3 victims. You stripped them from the waist down. You folded them in half, binding them so that their feet were up by their ears. You wrapped them in multiple layers of trash bags, and you discarded them. Upon consideration of the relevant evidence, the testimony exhibits admitted in mitigation, it is a judgment of this court that the aggravated circumstances of course of conduct, felony murder, kidnapping, felony murder, of which the defendant was convicted, outweigh the mitigating factors by proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Accordingly, the sentence of death is imposed upon the defendant Michael Madison on counts 1, 4, and 7.
Michael Madison is currently awaiting his execution in prison. This type of emotional outburst in court isn't uncommon, as seen during the sentencing of 18-year-old Peyton Gendron, who faced multiple charges for murder. On May 14, 2022, Peyton, a white supremacist, opened fire in a predominantly black neighborhood grocery store in New York, killing 10 black individuals and injuring 3 others. In court, the victims' families expressed their grief and anger. One of the most emotional statements came from Barbara Massey, who wanted to choke Peyton in retaliation for taking her sister's life. "You drove 200 miles to come to Buffalo. You don't even know any black people," she said. "I want you to thank those officers for protecting you, because I would hurt you so bad."
My name is Barbara Massey. I'm Catherine Massey's sister. You killed my sister. Cat was an aunt. She was a great aunt. She was a cousin. She was a pretty. Cat said she was a committee of 1. There's nothing Cat wouldn't do for people. I want personally to choke you and leave my fingerprints on your neck because it was unnecessary. You leave 200 miles to come to Buffalo. You don't even know any black people. I want to choke. You better stick those places. You better say, "Cat, thank y'all for protecting me, because I will hurt you so bad. You have made me sick. You got my family crying. I miss my sister every day. You don't like black people. Man, you don't know a damn thing about black people. We're human. We like our kids to go to good schools. We love our kids."
Peyton eventually expressed remorse, saying he regretted his actions and wished he could take them back. The judge sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. This wasn't the last time a family member would lash out at a perpetrator in court. During the trial of Larry Nassar, a sports doctor convicted of multiple counts of sexual abuse, one victim's father requested 5 minutes alone in a locked room with Nassar to take justice into his own hands.
I would ask you to, as part of this sentencing, to grant me 5 minutes in a locked room with this demon. Would you do that?
The judge, of course, denied this request.
Yes or no? Would you give me 1 minute?
You know that I can't do that. That's
I'm gonna have to get someone.
Stay down. Stay down. I understand.
Let me have that son of a
I
bitch.
understand, but stay down.
I want that.
Stop fighting. Fight your back. Put your hands behind your back.
I want that son of a
Put your
bitch.
hands behind your back. I don't.
Give me 1 minute with that pass through.
Go ahead. You're good.
Nassar, who had manipulated and abused young athletes under his care, was sentenced to 175 years in prison, ensuring he would spend the rest of his life behind bars.
I find that you don't get it, that you're a danger. You remain a danger. I am a judge who believes in life and rehabilitation when rehabilitation is possible. I have many defendants come back here and show me the great things they've done in their lives after probation, after parole. I don't find that's possible with you. Your decision to assault was precise, calculated, manipulative, devious, despicable. I don't have to add words because your survivors have said all of that. I don't want to repeat it. Sir, I'm giving you 175 years, which is 2,100 months. I've just signed your death warrant. I need everyone to be quiet. I still have contempt powers. I told you I'm not nice. Thank you. That's all for the record.
Another emotional case involved Quinn Bose, who was in court for the murder of his 11-month-old son. As Quinn was being led away after being sentenced to 25 years in prison, the child's uncle, Jeremiah Matthew Lay, punched him. Jeremiah was sentenced to 179 days in jail for his actions, a reaction similar to that of London Thomas, who couldn't control his emotions during the sentencing of Vashon Flowers. Vashon was sentenced to life imprisonment after fatally shooting his wife, Jamie Thomas Flowers, following an argument about smoking. Their daughter tearfully recounted the events in court.
He was irritable and said that he was a grown man. If he wanted to buy cigarettes, he would buy cigarettes. He got down on the ground and started choking my mother. Actually, I heard, "You don't have to do this, Vashon. Please don't do this. You don't have to do this." And then I heard gunshots.
Leading London to lash out. Emotions often run high in such tragic cases, as seen in the trial of 15-year-old James Douglas Gonzalez, who was convicted of negligent homicide for killing Edward Hall. Edward's younger brother, Kevin Hall, was so enraged by the verdict that he attacked James in court. Kevin was sentenced to 5 days in jail for the assault, while James escaped without injuries. Another intense courtroom moment occurred during the sentencing of Clifford Thomas, who, along with his girlfriend, was convicted of killing 3-year-old Jamela, the daughter of Dwayne Smith. In court, Dwayne decided to make his statement by physically attacking Clifford. The police had to separate the two men, and the session was rescheduled. Clifford and his girlfriend were later sentenced to up to 15 years in prison. But perhaps the most dramatic courtroom scene involved Dale Williams, who was on trial for the murder of his ex-girlfriend, Elizabeth Pledger Stewart, in June 2017. As Elizabeth's daughter began her statement in court, her brothers had other plans. The police had to use tasers to restore order after the brothers tried to attack Dale. Dale was eventually sentenced to 15 years to life in prison, and the two brothers also faced consequences for their actions. These cases show how overwhelming grief and anger can lead to explosive moments in court, as families struggle to cope with the loss of their loved ones and the actions of those responsible.